Tyreek Hill suffers a career-ending injury. Also, the Cleveland Browns are making a quarterback change. And it's not Shedeur Sanders, it's Dillion Gabriel. We're going to be breaking that down and much more. Also previewing each and every game that we're going to be coming up with in NFL Week 5. We're also going to be recapping all the big matchups that just happened in Week 4. The NFL show with Anthony Balester starting right now. And we're back with the Anthony Balester YouTube channel. I am your host, Anthony Balester. Before we get into the NFL stuff, let's break down and make sure that you're following us across all social medias. We're at Twitter at Balester555, Instagram and TikTok at Anthony Balester. Make sure if you're watching this video, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. The more subscribers we have, the more content, the better the content we can bring you guys. Make sure that you also like and share this video. I know if you're watching this, you're a football fan. You probably got other people that are also football fans. So make sure you share it to them and make sure you like the video as well. The more likes we have, the better it helps with the algorithm and more of the content we can bring you guys. So let's get into it. We had some devastating news, and it seems to be a trend over the last couple of weeks. Big star players getting hurt and being out with injury for the season. And we had two big ones at the wide receiver position this week. We had Tyreek Hill and Malik Nabers, who are both going to be out for the season. I'll break these down individually, starting off with Tyreek Hill. Now, when you watch that game, Monday Night Football with the Miami Dolphins versus the Jets, yeah, the Miami Dolphins were finally able to get a win. Tyreek Hill was playing really, really phenomenal that game and the weeks prior. I think he finished this season right now as a top 10 receiver according to Pro Football Focus. So Tyreek Hill was playing much better than what he did last year. Yeah, he wasn't getting the explosive plays, but he was still a very effective receiver that was catching balls, still jumping up high in the air, pound for pound, one of the best receivers still in the league. And, a guy who was taking up a much bigger leadership role this year. And when you look at that injury, man, I mean, it's hard to watch. You could go online and try to watch it for yourself, but it's one of those injuries that's really, really hard to watch a second time. I mean, his leg was pretty much bent in the wrong direction, not moving at all. They immediately had to get the stabilizer on it to get his leg in the right position. And then ultimately he's on the cart that goes straight into the emergency room for surgery. With a guy like Tyreek Hill, who's predicated on his speed, his stop and go rate, and all the explosiveness that he does, with the route running he does, him having this injury really, really hurts a player like Tyreek Hill. It's not like he's a guy who is 6'5" and can win it, in the NFL with just his body and just out-bodying people or out-mossing people. Yeah, he does moss people once in a while, but it's because he's got great leaping ability. Now, this is going to affect his leaping ability. So a guy who's 5'9", 5'10", it's not like he's a Mike Evans and you can just throw 50-50 balls to him all game long. And this is a devastating injury, not only for the type of player he is, but for the age. Tyreek Hill next year will be a 32-year-old receiver. And his injury wasn't just a normal, obviously every season-ending injury is bad, but it wasn't just your typical season-ending injury. This was catastrophic. I mean, you're talking about a guy who dislocated his kneecap, pretty much torn all his ligaments in his knee. I think it was the ACL and the MCL. So it's pretty much anything that could go wrong with your knee and your leg pretty much happened to Tyreek Hill. So now you look at it now, he's going to have to spend all of the rest of the year and probably next year trying to come back. So you're looking at a guy who even, when normal guys who are 25, 26 years old who have these injuries, it takes them the entire season to just get back to normal. So a typical receiver that this happens to in 2025, you won't see them back to their normal selves probably until closer to 2027. But if that's the case with Tyreek Hill, he's going to be 33 years old by 2027. So I believe that obviously he's going to try to make a comeback, but in terms of his career being altered, this is a career-altering injury. You can say it's career-ending, but he will still try to attempt to play through it. But I don't think Tyreek Hill is ever going to be the same. I think, unfortunately, you've definitely seen a little bit of regression, but he was still a borderline top 10 receiver that was the number one guy on the team. Now he'll no longer be a number one receiver. No team is going to want him as their number one. Obviously, the Miami Dolphins are still going to be paying him quite a bit amount of money. So they'll be paying him as their number one receiver. But I believe when he comes back, he'll be the number two to Jalen Waddle. Now, what's unfortunate is he's going to be on a team that by the time he does come back might be in a complete rebuild. If things continue to go south, yeah, they got the one win, but it's not going to help them too much. If things continue to go south, and this is a team that's looking at a 6 to 7 win season, then Mike McDaniel's going to be out as head coach. They're going to have a new coach come in, probably a new GM. And if Tua Tagovailoa doesn't get that coaching staff to the playoffs and one doesn't prove something to them, they could be trying to get out of his contract in 2027. So this is a Tyreek Hill that plays for an organization that may be going through a rebuild, on top of the fact that he's getting older and on top of the fact he's coming off of catastrophic injury. It wouldn't surprise me if Tyreek Hill just plays out his deal over the next couple seasons and then just retires in 2027. It's going to be a very tough injury for him to come back, given his style of play and his age. And it's unfortunate for one of the most exciting players to ever play the game. In my opinion, I think he's the fastest player the NFL league has ever seen. The guy was just another gear above everybody else. I know you got the old heads clamoring for Deion Sanders, but players now are much faster than they ever were. And when you look at the gap in speed from Tyreek Hill to the guys that were trying to cover him and stop him on defense, nobody was able to keep up with him. Like I said, he had like a second and third gear that no one else had. I mean, had this guy not played football, he probably could have dropped 15 to 20 pounds in weight and just went full track and would have been one of the fastest players in the world and been one of the guys who would have been competing in the Olympics for gold medals. That's how much speed he had. He's going to be a guy who, we know receivers, you look at Torrey Hope, how long it's been taking him to get into the Hall of Fame. Receivers do have a tough time making the Hall of Fame, but there was a point in time where Tyreek Hill was either the best receiver or a top 3 receiver for, at least a 5-year period. You look at the year he had with Alex Smith, the few years that he had with Pat Mahomes, and then the first couple years that he had with Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, you look at that, there was about a 5-year plus stretch where he was either the best, second, or third best receiver in football, particularly when he first went to Miami and really, didn't have the luxury of saying, oh, I'm playing for Andy Reid, I'm playing for Mahomes, no, I'm playing for a whole new organization, and I'm still dominating. That 1 year he had with Miami, he probably was the best receiver in football. I believe even the NFL players voted him the number 1 player in the league. So I believe he is a Hall of Fame player, but he's going to be a guy who's going to have to wait a long time to make the Hall of Fame. Now I'll talk about a much younger guy who I believe will make a full comeback. You probably will be able to see him make a full comeback probably mid-season of next year, and that's Malik Nabers. Now, it's unfortunate because Malik Nabers has become one of the best young receivers in football. I mean, as a rookie, the guy was a top 5, top 10 receiver. And this year, obviously Puka Nacua has been the best. You got Jackson Smith-Njigba, but you could make an argument that Malik Nabers was probably the third best receiver in football this year as a 22-year-old second-year NFL player. And he finally got the young quarterback going. Jackson Dart looked really, really well against the Chargers. He was showing flashes. And it's like, okay, we got Cam Scatterboot. We got Jackson Dart. We got Malik Nabers. We got these 3 young guys that we could build with. And Malik Nabers finally had a quarterback that he could trust, a quarterback that he could grow with and build with for the future. And then when you look at an injury, man, he's trying to make a great catch. He's stopping. He's running full speed and then stopping, trying to make a move, trying to jump for the ball, and you could just see his leg and his knee give out. You knew it was a season-ending injury as soon as it happened. It definitely hurts the Giants. Don't think the Giants were going anywhere this year, but this would have been a great year, whether if they would have made the playoffs or not, just for Jackson Dart and Malik Nabers to build up that chemistry so that they can make a run to make the playoffs in 2026. Now you're going to have it to where Malik Nabers probably doesn't do any of the offseason programming next year, is going to have to come back slow, and he really won't get a full Malik Nabers probably until mid-season of next year. We don't know where this organization is going to be by then. Brian Daboll, I think because of what Jackson Dart has showed, probably has earned himself another season. But now Jackson Dart's going to have to try to build that chemistry next year, halfway through the season. So that's just unfortunate. It puts these 2 guys pretty much a year to a year and a half below the 8 ball in terms of them growing. Now you may not see what Jackson Dart and Malik Nabers can fully become until 2027. And that's unfortunate for one of the best young receivers. Now, unlike Tyreek Hill, the guy's young. I believe he'll make a full comeback and make a comeback much sooner. But definitely will stunt the growth of Malik Nabers and stunt the growth of Jackson Dart and ultimately stunt the growth of their chemistry. So it's definitely unfortunate. But like I said, at least in his case, he's young. He will make a full recovery. But in Tyreek Hill's case, I think it was much more catastrophic. And I also think Tyreek Hill's injury was much worse. Now, in our last breaking news that was off the field, we got the Cleveland Browns, who are deciding to make a quarterback change. They make Dillion Gabriel the starting quarterback. Now, we knew that we predicted this before the season started. We said, hey, Joe Flacco's the vet. He gives them the best chance to win. They're going to start off with Joe Flacco, see what they got. Once you know that they're out of it, after a quarter to midway through the season, they'll start Gabriel and see how Dillion Gabriel goes. We know Dillion Gabriel was the guy who was drafted higher than Shedeur Sanders. He was the guy that ultimately beat him out in preseason. Now, in preseason, it was kind of mixed. I thought Shedeur Sanders looked better in the first game. And then when Dillion Gabriel came in the next game, didn't look as good. And then when they both played in the last preseason game, Dillion Gabriel outplayed him. But I do believe Dillion Gabriel was playing in a much better circumstances because the offensive lineman that was protecting Shedeur Sanders at the end of that preseason game weren't guys that really made the roster. So I believe Dillion Gabriel had a better offensive line to protect him in the last preseason game. But at the end of the day, Dillion Gabriel did outplay him in that game, and that ultimately was the decision. Plus, the guy was drafted in the third round compared to Shedeur Sanders in the fifth. So they're going to give Dillion Gabriel a shot. I said this during the season or before the season started. I said Flacco would start, and then Dillion Gabriel will come in. And if Dillion Gabriel doesn't do any good, we'll probably see Shedeur Sanders finish out the season. Both these guys are going to be auditioning for the future. We know the Cleveland Browns have an extra draft picks next year in the draft. We still don't know how this quarterback class is going to look. I know Dante Moore has been really flashing of late. Before the injury, John Mateer's looking good. We know Lenore Sellers has all the talent in the world. But there's still mixed reactions. We got Fernando Mendoza as well, who's really stepped up to the plate. So there's a lot of unknowns, but there's definitely going to be a couple of guys in the first round that are worthy of being drafted as franchise guys. Now, we have a lot of disappointed guys like Arch Manning, Kate Klubnik. Sam Levitt has had his inconsistencies. Drew Eller, who looked good, but then still chokes in the clutch moments at the end of the games. There's still a lot of questions with those guys. But I believe a couple of guys will separate themselves from the pack, giving the Browns an opportunity to maybe either trade up or just draft one of these top quarterbacks. So now they'll give Dillion Gabriel probably 3 to 4 games to audition. You gave Flacco 4 games. Let's give Dillion Gabriel 4 games. If he doesn't look any better and he doesn't show any flashes like he's the guy, then let Shedeur Sanders finish out the season. At least give everybody a even playing field. And I believe that's what's going to happen. I think Shedeur Sanders is the better quarterback and will prove that before the season ends. But now will it be enough? Even if he proves that he's better than Dillion Gabriel, it's got to be enough for him to prove to the Cleveland Browns that he's worthy of them passing on quarterbacks in next year's draft as well. That's going to be a tough ask because there are some talented guys coming out next year. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on these guys. But Dillion Gabriel is the Dillion Gabriel show. It's his audition. It's his opportunity. It's for him to go out there and prove why he was a third-round pick. He was a great college quarterback that improved every year. He's a very smart, accurate quarterback that gets the ball out quick. He's got a really quick release. He always puts the ball where it's needed. So we'll see if he can keep the ball clean, not turn the ball over like Joe Flacco was doing, be accurate, get the guys like Jerry Jeudy involved. We'll see if he's the guy. If not, then ultimately we'll be able to see if Shedeur Sanders is the guy. So we predicted this. This is exactly how we thought the Browns quarterback situation will go. And now we will see if Shedeur Sanders will get his audition or if Dillion Gabriel plays so good that he doesn't allow Shedeur Sanders to get that opportunity. Now let's talk about all the things that happened on the field in Week 4. So there was some Week 4 reactions we'd like to talk about. We had in the biggest game of the week, we had the Kansas City Chiefs beating and dismantling the Baltimore Ravens. Now, coming into this game, I thought Baltimore would win it. I thought that they were the better team. I thought they needed this game a lot more. I thought Kansas City needed this game a lot more because their division's so tough. And I thought Baltimore, being the more talented team, would get it done. But Kansas City being the home team, like I said, they needed this game more because of how hard the division is. It's definitely going to be way harder to catch the Los Angeles Chargers than it is for the Baltimore Ravens to catch the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know the Chargers are probably a better team than the Steelers. And also, too, the Denver Broncos are much better than any other team that the Ravens got to play. They're better than the Browns and they're better than the Bengals. So the Chiefs played a much tougher division and already dropping a game to the Chargers. So they needed this game more, plus they were the home team. But I thought Lamar Jackson and the Ravens would just be too much. But the Ravens came in here with their top defensive tackle who was out, who's now out for the rest of the season in Amabuke. He's out. Their backup defensive tackles like Travis Jones and others, they were out for this game. So they were completely depleted at the D tackle position. But what's unfortunate is this team has so much talent in the secondary that even they got dismantled. Now, I know Marlon Humphrey, I think, got an injury in this one. We know Julio Alexander hasn't been able to play much. Nate Wingens got a little banged up as well. So this team just got injury after injury. But they started the game with just really injuries at the defensive tackle position. They went down the field, got a touchdown, and then after that, the turnovers happened for Lamar. That was a really bad interception. And it's weirdly Lamar Jackson. He doesn't throw many interceptions, but he always throws interceptions, and they're really important games, particularly in the playoffs. But now he also throws them against the Chiefs. The Chiefs just seem to have Lamar Jackson's number. Yeah, people are always like, oh, well, he's got Josh Allen's number. Well, they may beat the Buffalo Bills, but they're not beating Josh Allen. Don't get that twisted. Josh Allen plays really, really well against the Chiefs. I mean, look at Josh Allen's stats. Josh Allen pretty much matches or outplays Pat Mahomes in the games. But it's Josh Allen's defense or Josh Allen's coaching that usually costs them the games against the Chiefs. Where when you look at when the Ravens and the Chiefs play, Lamar Jackson's numbers are not that great. They seem to be the one team that doesn't Lamar Jackson doesn't really have much success against. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but they just seem to have their number. On top of it, the biggest news is not only did the Chiefs win, but Lamar Jackson got a hamstring injury. He wasn't able to finish the game. And now there's reports that he may miss 1 to 3 games. Now, that's devastating. No, he is the heart and soul of this team. Yeah, they got Derrick Henry, but this whole team and offense runs through Lamar Jackson, just like the Buffalo Bills run through Josh Allen and just like the Kansas City Chiefs run through Pat Mahomes. And you look at what's going on with the Bengals, when they don't have Joe Burrow, they can't win football games. The same thing applies to Lamar Jackson. I know they got Cooper Rush. He's a really good backup quarterback. He played serviceable in a few games before ultimately struggling when Dak Prescott got hurt. But he's a guy who, if you need to come in for 1 to 3 games, he can be serviceable. You just don't want him for any longer period than that. So maybe they could get by. But, man, when you're already 1-3, and you got the Pittsburgh Steelers who are 3-1, and the AFC West is going to clog up a lot of those wild card positions with the Chargers, the Chiefs, and the Broncos. All 3 of those teams are going to be competing right there, so that probably already takes up 2 of those wild card spots. In the AFC South, you got the Colts and the Jaguars who got a good record, and then the AFC East, you got the Bills, and now you got the ascending New England Patriots as well. So it's going to be very tough to get a wild card position. I believe Lamar Jackson will come back, and I believe that they will be able to stay the ship. I think that they'll still make the playoffs, ultimately. I don't see them missing the playoffs. But this Lamar Jackson injury definitely hurts this franchise. Then you had the New York Giants. Like I said earlier, Jackson Dart came in and played phenomenal. Really showed why he was worth the first-round pick. The guy is athletic. The guy can throw passes. He does all the crazy sidearm throws, throwing off platform, throwing on the run. And with him and with Cam Scatterboo, breaking out as well. And we already know the Giants got a great defense. No one probably has a better trio of pass rushers than the Giants with Burns, Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter down. And then you got Dexter Lawrence, who has been kind of a 1A, 1B with Chris Jones as the best defensive tackle. This year might be the year where he's just a singular one, best of the tackle in football. And when you look at the combination of that, this team could give any offense fits. And Justin Herbert, who has looked really poised and calm throughout the season, had his worst game of the season. And they also haven't been able to get Ladd McConkey, who was their best receiver heading into the season, really involved in the game plan. Finally, their rookie running back, Hampton, broke out, so that's something that they could look positive into. But now they're not going to have their top 2 tackles. Joe Alt was carted off, and this is right after they lost Rashawn Slater preseason. So you lost one of the best tackles in football. You lost one of the best right tackles in football who moved to the left to play that. Now you don't have your 2 bookends. That's going to be devastating for any team. Now you go up against the Giants, who has a great pass rush. That's a bad combination. So the Giants got their first win and upset the Chargers, but the Chargers, they might have to make a trade or something because I don't see how they're going to be able to be successful. They'll still make the playoffs and be able to go on a playoff run with having Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater out for the long term. Potentially, I know Slater's out for the season. We'll have to see with Joe out, but man, that's some tough injuries. But give it to the Giants. Jackson Dart, so far, it looks like he's the real deal. Let's see if he can continue this. He played really good in preseason as well, so all of this is just adding up to maybe he really is the guy and the future of the New York Giants, and maybe this is the guy that fits Daboll's system, the guy that he's been clamoring for, and the type of quarterback that he's been wanting for quite some time. Then we had Micah Parsons having his return to the Dallas Cowboys, and it did not go the way the Packers want. A lot of people thought the Packers would absolutely blow up the Cowboys. The Cowboys were a team that just got blown out by the Chicago Bears. They barely got past the Giants. And when you look at the Packers, they look like one of the most complete teams. But then they struggle against the Browns and lose that one. And then now their defense got absolutely torched by Dak Prescott. And ended up being a 40-40 tie. Now, I hate the NFL overtime rules. I really wish that they would adopt the college football rules because it allows overtime to go by quick while also establishing a winner. I hate ties. There should be no ties in the NFL. The NFL should either make the overtime 15 minutes or just help out everybody. And instead of having a long 15 minutes or a short 10 minutes where it's likely that you're going to have a tie, just have the college football rules. Yeah, you don't have kickoffs, but so what? Just let each team start off basically in field goal range and just have them go back and forth. First overtime, it's just you go back and forth. Second overtime, you got to go for 2-point conversions. After that, you guys just alternate 2-point conversions. It goes quick. It's very, very exciting. And everybody likes it. And since it doesn't go on for a long period of time, you're not exhausting the players. You're not going to cause too many injuries. And you get out of there quickly. And it's great exciting for the fans. But either way, for the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons, who's been one of the best defenses in football this year, for them to give up 40 points, and this was probably one of the best games I've ever seen at Dak Prescott. He put this team on his back. But at the end of the day, you're going up a Dallas Cowboys team who, has a good quarterback. Yeah, it has George Pickens and some good receivers, but they don't even have their number one receiver. CeeDee Lamb was not even in this game, and you allowed this team to put 40 points on you. And the week before, you allowed the rookie running back, Quinshon Judkins, to run all over you. So this Packers team, I don't know if it's just – I feel like we know they got the talent. I just feel like they played down their competition. We know what they could do when they're firing on cylinders. Their offense has been still really, really good. Jordan Love had a phenomenal game. They were great on third down, so – Jordan Love has still looked like a top 10 franchise quarterback. The receivers have looked good. Josh Jacobs has looked good. But for Micah Parsons and this defense to give up 40 points to a Dallas Cowboys team who didn't have CeeDee Lamb is unacceptable. And I believe that, we saw what they did against the Lions offense. So we know that they could put on a good performance. But I believe that they play down to their competition. A couple quick games here. We had the Los Angeles Rams going up against the Indianapolis Colts. The Los Angeles Rams showed why they're one of the best teams in football. I believe outside the Eagles, I believe the Rams are the second best team in football. They nearly beat the Eagles. The Eagles had to have a great comeback in the second half while also blocking that field goal. The Rams on any given Sunday can be the best team in football, and they proved it. The Indianapolis Colts still have some good offensive plays. Mitchell dropping that pass, so it should have been a guaranteed touchdown right before the end zone. That really cost them. Daniel Jones, who looked good, but not as good as he did in the previous weeks, having multiple turnovers. I still believe that he's a better quarterback and still going to have a really good season this year, the best season I think that he'll ever have. And I think he's going to show the improvement that he's made, and the Colts will still show why they're still a playoff caliber team, but there's levels to this, and the Rams are in the conversation for the best team for a reason. Then we had the Philadelphia Eagles, who got a win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield did everything he can to put this team on his back. He got Chris Godwin back, and he got Tristan Wirfs back, but he still didn't have Mike Evans. Plus, they had some other offensive linemen, some of their good guards, who were out as well. But Baker Mayfield, who was getting blown out, nearly almost made a 3-possession comeback. It was like the opposite of the week before when the Eagles had to come back from 3 possessions and ended up beating the Los Angeles Rams. The Buccaneers almost flipped that and did them their other way. And so, the turnover at the end. But Baker Mayfield, you saw that pass deep to Emeka Egbuka. He did everything he can. I think once this team gets healthy, with Bucky Irvin and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Mecca Mbuka. This team just has so much talent. And I really, really like where the Buccaneers are going. But the Philadelphia Eagles are the best team. They don't have any weaknesses. They got great players at every single position, and they're the reigning Super Bowl champs for a reason. Lastly, we had the Jacksonville Jaguars handing the San Francisco 49ers their first loss of the season. Trevor Lawrence is still struggling a little bit, but Travis Etienne is looking like the Travis Etienne we saw a couple years ago when he broke out. They got a really good tight end play from Bretton Strange, and their defense. The Jaguars have been one of the best defenses in football, and Devin Lloyd should be AFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's been one of the best linebackers in football this year, and they've been getting a lot of contributions from other guys. So Jacksonville's been winning these games by defense. They've been getting some plays at the running game. Once they can get Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter contributing on offense, this team is going to be very, very hard to beat. Now, let's break down every single game and go through our picks. And for the NFL Week 5 matchups, we're going to start with our Thursday night. We got the 49ers on the road to the Rams. The Rams are a 6.5-point favorite. So, I think in this one, it's a divisional matchup, and it's the best division in football this year. All these teams have been really well. The Seahawks, they look really, really good with the combination they have on offense and defense. We know the Cardinals, who have some injuries, they've been playing competitive football. And then you got the 49ers, who even with the injuries, they still got some good players they can contribute from. And the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams are just way too good. I believe the Los Angeles Rams win this. They got Puka Nacua, who's been the best receiver in football. Devontae Adams, who's probably been the best number 2 receiver. Kyron Williams is a touchdown machine. Matthew Stafford's one of the most experienced veteran quarterbacks, and he could kill you and does show up every single Sunday. The defense is young, so their defense is not only young but fast and explosive and can get after the quarterback. They can shut you down in the secondary. So this team doesn't have many weaknesses either. But 6.5 points is a lot for a division game. And with the 49ers still having Christian McCaffrey, Ricky Parcells really emerged for this team. They still got some good defensive players who's been making plays in absence of guys like Nick Bosa and some of the players they lost in free agency. So I don't think that they're good enough to go on the road to beat the Rams. But with Kyle Shanahan being a really smart coach and with Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey, I think that they'll keep it close. But I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Rams no cover. Now we got the Minnesota Vikings, who are a 3.5-point favorite versus the Cleveland Browns. Now, I guess I made that a mistake because they're versus the Cleveland Browns. They're not at the Browns because we got to remember this game is in London. So nobody's got the home field advantage in this one. The Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite versus the Browns in London. Now, I think the Vikings do get somewhat of an advantage. I know it's technically different countries, but they're playing back-to-back international games. So that gives them slight advantage. This would be Dillion Gabriel's first start. He's going to try to take a page out of Jackson Dart's book and, kind of pull off an upset here. But I just don't think it'd be enough. We've seen the Minnesota Vikings. They did play a competitive game and almost came back, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Carson Wentz at this point in time is probably a better quarterback than J.J. McCarthy. He seems to be able to get guys like Justin Jefferson. And now that Jordan Addison's back, him and Hawkinson involved in the game. I know Aaron Jones is dealing with some injuries, but Jordan Mason, not too many people has a good of a backup running back. He could be a starter for a lot of franchises in the NFL. And then when you look at their defense, yeah, they had some struggles, but they still got a lot of talent with Van Ginkel and others. This team is got players on that defense. Now I know Harrison Smith hasn't been able to play. That's a huge loss at the safety position. But this team has a lot of good players on the defensive side of the ball, and they have enough players even with the injuries. I think when you're playing a Browns team who's going to be playing a rookie quarterback, they have a rookie running back. They don't have a deep wide receiving core outside of Judy and others. So I just think the Browns don't have a really good, offense. They do have a great defense, though. Myles Garrett's the best defensive player on the planet. They got a lot of good players. I love their rookie linebacker, Carson Schwarzenegger. He's been unbelievable. He's playing like a Pro Bowl level linebacker, tackling machine. Could also cover as well. Him along with Devin Bush. They got some other pass rushers to go along with Myles Garrett that's contributing. Denzel Ward, one of the best shutdown corners in football. I believe we're going to get a very defensive, low-scoring game, but I still think the Minnesota Vikings win and cover. Now we got a high point spread here, but I think an easy pick. We got the Las Vegas Raiders, who's going to be on the road against the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts are a 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts to win and cover. I just believe the Raiders are just not a really good football team. I don't trust their defense, really. I think outside of Max Crosby, they don't have any other players you could truly rely on. Offensively, they got one of the worst receiving corps in football. I know Trey Tucker has really broke out. Ashton Jeanty has finally broke out, so he's looking like the Ashton Jeanty we thought come into the season. So you have a top 10 running back, but now they got some injuries on their offensive line. They don't got a great receiver core. Brock Bowers kind of has the carry, the load at wide receiver for them. And like I said, just on both sides of the ball, they're just not a very good team. And then look at the opposite end. The Colts have overachieved. They've been much better at every position than we thought coming into the season. They still got Jonathan Taylor, who's one of the best running backs in football this year. He's probably having the best season of his career. He won back-to-back AFC Player of the Weeks. It's probably between him, James Cook, and Bijan Robinson for the best running back in football this season. They got multiple receivers that Daniel Jones could throw to. They got one of the best offensive lines. Daniel Jones finally has time in the pocket, which is allowing him to flourish. Their defense with DeForest Buckner. Now you got the second-year guy from UCLA, Latu finally breaking out as well. So now this team's getting a pass rush. Their corners, Tre'Davious Ward was a great signing from the 49ers. He looked like he was over the hump and not that good last year when he was hurt. Now he's looking like the old Tre'Davious Ward, who's a shutdown corner. Bynum has been a really good interception machine in the secondary. So this team with Zari Franklin, this team has good players across the board. So they're going to be way too much for the Raiders. So I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts to win and cover. Now we got the New York Giants, Jackson Dart's second game on the road to the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints are trying to get their first win, and they're the home team. They're a 1.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints to win and cover this game. Now, I know the New York Giants did win last week, but we got to remember, in the NFL, everybody's good. These are pro players at the end of the day. And the New York Giants, everything went their way last week. So now everybody's patting them on the back, talking about how good they are. And we know when a lot of rookie quarterbacks come in and play good that first game, now you got a whole week of tape on them. Now you can kind of game plan for Jackson Dart's strengths and weaknesses. And when you look at the New Orleans Saints, yeah, they got blown out by the Seahawks. But take out that game, they've been competitive in all their other games. There was a one-possession game with the Cardinals. It was a one-possession game with the 49ers up until, the fourth quarters. And then look how closely tight they played the Buffalo Bills. The New Orleans Saints are a much better team than a lot of people give them credit for. They have a defense that can cause turnovers. Spencer Rattler doesn't turn the ball over all that much. They have Alvin Kamara in the backfield. You got Chris Olave. You got Juwan Johnson at tight end. You got Shaheed also at wide receiver. This team has good players, but obviously they're still kind of in the rebuild, but they're much better than what people are getting credit for. I don't think they're the worst team in the league. I think the Tennessee Titans are the worst team in the league. And I think the fact that New Orleans Saints always play tight with all their opponents goes to show you how well coached this team is and how they do have some players that have showed that they can make some plays. And I think Spencer Rattler has been much better than what we thought. And there's a reason why he beat out the second-round pick Tyler Shunk for the starting job. And they're very, very desperate and a very hungry team for their first win. They've been so close 3 out of the 4 weeks. And I believe that this sets up perfectly for them to get their first win at home against the New York Giants team, who just got their first win last week and is due for now for a letdown. So I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints to win this game. I think they're going to give Jackson Dart some fits with their defense and ultimately pull out the win. Now we got the Dallas Cowboys, who's a 2.5-point favorite on the road to the New York Jets. I'm going to stick with the same thing. I'm going to go with the New York Jets to go out there and get their first win. I think that they're going to upset the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys just pretty much had their Super Bowl last week where everything, they played almost a perfect game on offense without CeeDee Lamb. Dak Prescott probably had maybe one of his best games of his career. Obviously, George Pickens was phenomenal, catching those 50-50 balls. Run after the catch ability was phenomenal. Their offensive line held up. Their defense still struggled, though. And now when you look at a New York Jets team who's still desperate to try to get their first win, Justin Fields, if you can't cause him havoc, he could run all over you. And he showed you in the Pittsburgh Steelers game that, there is certain weeks where he can get the ball off and can make good throws. Garrett Wilson, if he had any better quarterback play, he'd be a top 10 receiver. So he's a top 10 caliber receiver. And then when you look at Breece Hall played really good last week as well. So when you look at Dallas Cowboys team, who their secondary has been getting gashed each and every week, now that allows Justin Fields to where now if your secondary is not that good, Justin Fields actually has a chance to be able to throw the football. And if Justin Fields is throwing the football and you got to worry about that, then he can kill you with the legs and really flourish. And then when you look on the other side of the ball, they're not going to have CeeDee Lamb. And the Jets are going to have Sauce Gardner. So now you can put Sauce Gardner on George Pickens, or you could double team George Pickens and put Sauce Gardner on the other receiver, like Turpin or others. I believe that the Jets defense is going to have a pretty strong game against the Dallas Cowboys. And just like I said before about the New York Giants, everybody's going to be talking about how well the Dallas Cowboys played last week. And we know how hungry Aaron Glenn is to get that New York Jets team their win. Plus, the New York Jets team have the home field advantage. So I think this also sets up for the New York Jets to go out there and get their upset. So I'm going to go with the New York Jets to beat the Cowboys, get their first win of the season in an upset. Now we got two good teams playing each other here. We got the Denver Broncos going on the road to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are a 3.5-point favorite. I think the Broncos are finally all starting to gel together. We know their offense struggled in the beginning, then their defense struggled, and then they had the penalties. Now everything's starting to come together. Their offense is playing really well. Bo Nix getting it done, running the ball and throwing the ball. Cortland Sutton has been an unbelievable receiver. He's become the go-to guy that Bo Nix can rely on. Sean Payton, we know he starts off slow, and as the season goes on, his offense gets better. Now we know with their defense, Nick Bonito and Zach Allen, they're finally starting to get to the quarterback like they did a year ago. Pass Surtain, whoever receiver lines up against him, he's going to shut that guy down. We know they got good linebackers. Huafonga is a really good safety. So this is going to be a huge defensive matchup. You could potentially have the two of the top three best defenses in football playing in this matchup. But the difference in this game, I believe, is going to be the offense. Yeah, the Broncos were able to get the running game going last week with R.J. Harvey and also J.K. Dobbins. But the Philadelphia Eagles got too much talent. Even if Pass Surtain shuts down your number one receiver in A.J. Brown, they still could kill you with Devontae Smith. They still could kill you with Dallas Goedert at tight end. Then you got to worry about Saquon Barkley. Then you got to worry about Jalen Hurts and that great offensive line with the tush push and running on you. So if you got two good defenses, the thing that's going to separate is just the offensive talent. The Eagles are the best team for a reason. Plus, they're the home team. We know Philadelphia is a really tough team to play. We know Bo Nix can have turnovers. And the Philadelphia Eagles is not a team you're going to want to turn the ball over. Even if you have one or two turnovers against them, they're not going to turn the ball over back to you, and they're going to be able to kill the clock by running the ball. You're not going to have a huge time of possession, and then they're just going to kill you in every phase of the game. This team just has too many ways to win, and I just believe that even though the Broncos are a playoff team, they're just not talented enough to go on the road to beat a team like the Philadelphia Eagles. But if we're being honest, what team can do that? Maybe the Rams, and even they came up short. So the Philadelphia Eagles, yeah, there is times where they have a bad quarter or a bad half, but then they get together. Jalen Hurts, with his great leadership, always gets this team rolling when it needs to. And I just believe that they're going to be too much. And because the Broncos have a good pass rush, Jalen Hurts' mobility is going to negate some of that. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win and cover on that one. Now we got the Miami Dolphins, who are a 1.5-point favorite on the road to the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins to win and cover this one. If you look at the way Miami's played over the last few weeks, like I said about the Saints, you could say the same thing about Miami, but they actually got to win. They, were a couple penalties away from being the New England Patriots. They were a really close game with the Buffalo Bills, and they looked like the much better team last week on Monday Night Football against the New York Jets. Now, yes, they won't have Tyreek Hill, but he's still got Jalen Waddle. He's still got Devon Achane, who can catch the ball out the backfield. He can run explosive runs. Their defense seems to be getting better. Rasul Douglas has been playing pretty serviceable. I really like Jack Jones and the way he's played. So I think that their defense, also with Phillips and Chubb, and they got good D tackles with the young guys they got in Grant and Phillips, and then Zach Seidler. So this defense is playing better, not great, but better than what they did. And I believe that their offense finally caught a spark. Tua is playing like the accurate quarterback we know he can play like. And the Carolina Panthers, outside of J.C. Horn, who probably will be matched up against Jalen Waddle, he is one of the top 5 shutdown corners in football. You can't complete a pass against the guy, but they don't really have great defensive players outside of him. Yeah, Derek Brown also, too, at the defensive tackle position, but you can just run away from a defensive tackle. You can put 2 guys on him, block him, run to the other side. So the Carolina Panthers is not a really good team. Yeah, they had a really good performance against the Atlanta Falcons. We know the Carolina Panthers play much better on home than on the road, but they got absolutely killed by Drake May last week. I don't see them getting blown out that way. We know when teams get blown out, they do play much harder in the next matchup, and we know they have the home field advantage. So I believe that this game would be obviously much closer. I also don't think the Miami Dolphins are as talented as the Patriots, but I still don't think the Panthers are that great of a team. I believe we might get kind of a shootout here because, honestly, the Panthers' offense has played pretty well. Tectora McMillan, as a rookie, is one of the favorites for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He's a Mike Evans clone. He's 6'4", 6'5", could catch anything that's within some sort of radius near him. We know Bryce Young, when kept clean, can make good plays as well. So I believe, against Miami, who's improving on defense but still not great, I believe Bryce Young and Tectora McMillan will make some plays on offense, but I believe Tua and Devon Achane will make slightly more plays than them. And also, I think Miami's defense will make 1 or 2 more plays better and more than the Carolina Panthers. So I think Miami Dolphins get their second win back-to-back, and I think Miami Dolphins win and cover on that one. Then we got the Houston Texans going on the road as a 1.5-point favorite to the Baltimore Ravens. The Houston Texans finally got a win last week. They finally got a running back they could rely on in rookie Woody Marks. We know that's been their Achilles heel, was their offensive line and running game. And how can C.J. Stroud succeed when you got no running game? So teams don't even care about the run. They're just going to stack up their corners and secondary and take out the receivers. And because you don't got an offensive line, they don't have to put a lot of pass rushers. They don't have to rush with 5-6 guys. They can rush with 3 or 4, stop your running game, and create havoc for C.J. Stroud. But now they got this young guy in Woody Marks, the rookie from USC, who's finally emerging. He's a guy who can catch the ball in the backfield as well and also run in between the tackles. So now C.J. Stroud's got some of the pressure off him. Some of their young receivers have been playing better. You still got Nico Collins, who's a guy you got to account for. And we know the Houston Texans are going to have a great defense. We know Derek Stingley's dealing with injuries, but they got other great secondary players as well. You got the best pass rushing duo in football with Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. That creates havoc for any offensive line. And then when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, if Lamar Jackson is going to be out, I can't trust them. And then when you look at the injuries that they have on defense, even when they were healthy, they had all the talent, but their defense didn't play that great. So maybe Zach Orr is not the answer for the defensive coordinator position. No, we had the talent, but he just is not getting it done. And now you weren't getting it done when you had those guys, and now you got injuries. So I don't see how their defense is going to be able to play any better. Yeah, they're the home team. Yeah, they'll be motivated from what happened last week when they got dismantled by the Kansas City Chiefs. But I can't trust the Baltimore Ravens team, who is not going to have Lamar Jackson. You're going to have Cooper Rush in there, who is not a mobile quarterback. So now those pass rushers I spoke about with Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter is going to be able to create havoc. Yeah, if you had Lamar, that would help. But the fact that you don't have a mobile quarterback, that's going to really put this team at a disservice. Now what they're probably going to do is the Texans are just going to completely, worry about Derrick Henry and just let their pass rushers win the game. So I believe that the Houston Texans are going to get their second win in a row, and I'm going to go with the Houston Texans to win and cover. Then we got the Tennessee Titans going on the road to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I know the Titans have been, the worst team in football. Cam Ward has showed some flashes, but he doesn't have a great offensive line. He doesn't have a great wide receiver core. The Tennessee defense has played much better than what we thought. Yeah, there's been some moments where they didn't play great, but the first couple of games up until last week, the defense has actually been kind of keeping them in ball games. I mean, you look at how well their defense played against Bo Nix and Denver week 1. They were, the surprise of the season. They got the biggest defensive tackle lineup in football with Tavondre Sweat, Simmons, and others. And then their corners have played much better as well. Then when you look at the Arizona Cardinals, they've just been devastated injury. Their secondary has been hurt. Garrett Williams is out. They got some Will Johnson has been out of the lineup for a little while. So their secondary has been depleted. And then their running backs has been depleted. They lost James Conner for the year, who was the heart and soul of their offense. Then you lost Trey Benson now, who's going to be on IR for 4 years. So you're down to your third string running back. I believe because the Titans are the worst team and maybe the worst roster in football, the Arizona Cardinals, who showed some grit and showed some fight against the Seattle Seahawks last week on Thursday night. I believe, they finally got Marvin Harrison Jr. involved in the game. So I believe he's starting to emerge. Kyler Murray is making some plays as well, running the ball himself, making up for some of the depleted running backs. Trey McBride, a top 3 tight end that they can rely on. So between him, Michael Wilson, and Marvin Harrison, I don't think the Tennessee Titans will be able to stop all those guys. So I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals to win. But because of those injuries in the secondary and because of those injuries at the running back position, I can't give this the Arizona Cardinals 7.5 points. So I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals no cover. Then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks are a 3.5-point favorite. This is one of the best matchups of the year. We know the head coach is a defensive coach coming from Baltimore. Baltimore's defense hasn't been the same since losing Mike McDonald. He's got this defense playing awesome. They got so many young guys they can rely on. They got a tremendous secondary. They got probably the best secondary in football this year. They got so many guys that they can rely on. You got Witherspoon, who's unbelievable. They got some breakout guys like Josh Jobe, Dorian Kendrick. Julian Love has been unbelievable at the safety position. So this is a team who's got a top 5 defense. And then when you look at offensively, you got Kenneth Walker, who, could run all over any defense. Their offensive line's been playing pretty well, led by Charles Cross. Sam Darnold, again, has proven why he's a franchise quarterback. And you got Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been the second best receiver in football behind Puka Nacua. The guy showed that he's not just a slot receiver. He can line up in the slot. He can line out outside as well, and he could do it all. And they're the home team. But I believe, Baker Mayfield's going to have something to prove. Coming off the loss last week, we know Baker Mayfield always going to get this team running and going. Even with Mike Evans out, you still got Godwin, you still got Mbuka, you still got Buck Irvin. The offensive line's getting healthier. This is going to be a very, very close game that I can see go either way. But I believe the Seattle Seahawks are due for a loss, and I believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are due for a win coming off of that close win to the Philadelphia Eagles. And no matter what the situation is, we know that the Buccaneers are going to be in it every game. And in the fourth quarter on the last drive, I'm going to trust Baker Mayfield still over Sam Darnold. So I'm going to go with the Buccaneers to win in the upset in this one. Now we got the biggest point spread of the week. We got the Detroit Lions, who are a 10.5-point favorite on the road to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals have been absolutely getting blown out the last couple of weeks. They got blown out by the Broncos. They got blown out by the Minnesota Vikings. Jake Browning looks like the worst starting quarterback in football. Even with those great receivers, he can't even get them involved in the game. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins haven't been able to have that breakout game because they know Jake Browning's not a great quarterback that could push the ball downfield. Chase Brown hasn't been able to get going. Now because their offense can't do anything done, they're constantly putting their defense at a huge disservice. Your defense, no matter how good they are, if you're constantly turning the ball over, going 3 and out, your defense is going to get tired. And even though their defense is much better than last year and actually a pretty good defense, your defense could only do so much when you're constantly putting them behind the 8 ball as an offense. But being on the road, 10.5 points favorite. I say this every week. Double-digit favorites in the NFL, I never take. I know the Detroit Lions, St. Brown's been, continuing what St. Brown does each and every year, playing like a top 3, top 5 receiver. Jared Goff's great, but we know Jared Goff plays much better at home than he does on the road. Then when you look at their running backs, yeah, Jabari Gibbs and David Montgomery is unbelievable. They got a lot of good receivers. Their back end of their defense isn't that great for the Lions, so maybe that's going to help. They got good safeties, but I don't trust the Lions' cornerback position. Maybe that's going to make life easier. Instead of having to go up against Surtain, they're going to be able to go up against guys like Terran Arnold, who's a young guy, Carlton Davis, who has been 50-50 this year. So the Lions haven't been able to have great corners. They got a great pass rush. Aiden Hutchinson's looking like the old Aiden Hutchinson. Muhammad's been able to get some plays to the quarterback. He's been getting a good amount of sacks. So we know they got a good pass rush, but they don't have a great cornerbacks. So that should make life a little easier for Jake Browning. Plus, they're the home team. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to win this game. Obviously, they're way too talented to not pick. And the Bengals look like one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in football since Burrow's been out. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions to win. But that point spread's way too high at 10.5 going on the road. So I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions, no cover. We got Jaden Daniels coming back as the Washington Commanders are on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers are a 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to go with the Chargers to win and cover in that one. I believe getting upset last week, they're going to have a point to prove. They're going to have a great practice. They're going to come in motivated. Their defense is going to play great. Jaden Daniels, who Marcus Mariota has been really well, actually. Marcus Mariota has played like a top 15 quarterback while Jaden Daniels has been out. But I believe Jaden Daniels' first game back going on the road to a very good defense. And the Chargers, who, even though they lost last week, their defense still made quite a bit of plays. Now, I know the Chargers are going to be depleted at their offensive line position, but I don't believe that the Commanders have a great pass rush to even exploit that weakness for the Chargers. So I'm going to go with the Chargers to rebound and win and cover in that one. Now we got Sunday Night Football in a very pivotal division matchup. We got the New England Patriots going on the road to the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a 7.5-point favorite. Now, that's a way too high point spread for a division game, especially a division game against the Patriots, who have been looked much improved. Drake May has finally not turned the ball over. They finally got Travion Henderson, who's established himself as the number 1 running back for this team. Hunter Henry is a touchdown machine. They've been spreading the ball out to all the receivers. They now got Diggs playing more slot receiver, who has really, really helped this offense. Their defense now finally has Christian Gonzalez back, who, whenever he plays, he shuts down whatever the opposing receiver is. So I believe he'll get the Buffalo Bills fits in that regard. And this is the Patriots team, who I said coming in this season is going to be one of the most improved teams, and is going to give the Buffalo Bills the best run for the money for the division. Now, we know Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills play much better at home. Ed Oliver and Matt Milano is finally practicing. Maybe they could get that. But we know the Buffalo Bills, Deion Walker has played really, really well as a rookie. Bosa has played good, but outside of Bosa, they haven't been able to have a consistent pass rush. We know that they have trouble tackling. So when you combine all that, I expect this game to be much closer and 7.5-point favorite, even though the Buffalo Bills are one of the best teams in football and Josh Allen is the best player on the planet. They're a defense that, can, give up a lot of points. And I believe they're going to have a tough time tackling guys like Hunter Henry and Travion Henderson. Drake May is kind of like a baby version of Josh Allen, so you got to worry about his legs as well. And the Patriots have a really good defense. Christian Gonzalez is probably going to take out Keon Coleman or whatever receiver he lines up against. That could cause the Bills problems. Milton Williams, who's one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles, he could give them problems. Hopefully Spencer Brown's back. We know when Spencer Brown was out last week, the Saints were able to really get a consistent pass rush against the Bills. And for the most part, the Bills have had one of the best offensive lines over the last 2 years. But without Spencer Brown, him and Deion Dawkins are what really make that offensive line flourish. So if he's in, that's going to be great. If not, that could cause a lot of problems for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are still much better. I believe that the Patriots are still a year away from being that real top contender. I think that they still need probably a good number 1 receiver to really take this team over the top. And I think Drake May is 1 year away from becoming that elite quarterback. I think he's good, but I don't think he's great yet. Where Josh Allen is the best player on the planet, and James Cook is having a much better year, and he's the guy who was already a great running back last year, a top 10 guy. Now he looks like he's an all-pro caliber guy and a top 2 running back. Looks like they got him at a discount with his contract demands. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills to win, but a Buffalo Bills no cover. And then the last matchup, we got a Monday Night Football game against 2 good teams. We got the Kansas City Chiefs, who are a 3.5-point favorite, against the Jaguars. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win and cover in this one. I can't trust Trevor Lawrence in the offense. This is going to be probably a defensive game. I already said the Jaguars have had one of the best defenses in football, led by Devin Lloyd, one of the best linebackers this year. We know they got a really good pass rush. Their defensive tackle position has been playing much better. Their corners have been playing really well, but they haven't been able to get the offense consistent. Trevor Lawrence is still turning the ball over, and the Chiefs begin the season, they had their struggles, but their defense really never struggled. Their defense was always pretty much solid, but it was the offense. Now their offense, with now Xavier Worthy back, Travis Kelce's getting going. Their young running back Smith has finally starting to play well. He's been kind of making up for the slack that's been left by Pacheco. The offensive line's playing really well. It seems like they fixed their tackle position. Mahomes is playing like prime Mahomes. He's playing like he's much better than last year, putting the team on his back. Something that, we haven't really seen Mahomes do before. He's always had, good players around him, and yeah, he's been great. But this year, he's been playing like a whole nother level. He's been leading his team in passing, leading his team in rushing, and putting his team, like I said, on his back. You got guys like Thornton now who's been emerging. So now they got the offense going, along with having Chris Jones and McDuffie and that defense going. I believe that defense will be way too much. I believe that they're going to force Trevor Lawrence and the turnovers, and Pat Mahomes does not turn the ball over. So I think Pat Mahomes will make a lot more plays than Trevor Lawrence will, and I believe that the Kansas City Chiefs defense will make a lot more plays than the Jaguars. So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to win and cover in that one. But that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure to follow us across all social medias. We're at Twitter at Balester555, Instagram and TikTok at Anthony Balester. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to like and share this video with anybody you may know. And we got a lot of good games coming up this week. And we'll be back next week. We do a college football show on every Tuesday, and we do an NFL show on every Wednesday. We're going to be breaking down each and every game. So we will be back next Wednesday to recap all these great games, any breaking news, while also previewing every single game we got coming up in Week 6. Make sure you enjoy the football, everybody. We'll catch you guys next week.